Preliminary school closings. We want to just give you some information. Cal State Northridge, there was a fire on that campus early this morning. That campus has now been closed. There will be no classes tomorrow. Everyone except for physical plant personnel and campus police should stay home. Those are the only folks that are going to be allowed to roam around Cal State Northridge tomorrow. And that is very important information. As we get more information like that, we'll be passing it on to you. Let's go live now to Jane Wells, who is standing by to give us more information on where she is and what's going on there. Jane.
Well, again, I'm on the northbound 5, just south of the I-14 interchange at 4:31 this morning. The southbound transition road collapsed on here, and where you can see some of the cars, people got out of here okay, but the tragedy happened after the earthquake happened. About 45 minutes later, an LAPD motorcycle officer came flying off that overpass down to here to the part that had collapsed. Some of the witnesses told me that they came up to him at that point and tried to rescue him, and here is some sound from what they saw.
We were standing right up here, and this officer come flying over here, off the top here, about 45 miles an hour on a motorcycle, and just tumbled and boom, hit. So it ran up there.
He came flying off this as it fell, or after it fell?
This was an hour after the earthquake.
And then this fell?
No, this was already down.
Oh, already
this
fallen.
is already down, and we were assisting injured people here. And about 45 minutes to an hour after the earthquake had taken place, he come flying off there. And supposedly it was blocked off up above, but he didn't. I don't know what the deal was. And then so we ran up there, and an off-duty CHP and myself and another gentleman took him and very slowly turned him over, and he was, he's hemorrhaging and all that. And then at that point, he appeared to still be alive, but he was gone shortly after.
You mean gone how?
He's dead.
It was a pretty solemn moment at that time for everybody here. And then we turned our attentions, couldn't do anything there. We had turned our attentions back to the pregnant woman at that time.
What you are seeing now is tape of the officer's body being removed around noontime. Now, the pregnant woman you heard that witness talk about, she's okay. She was airlifted out of here. She had some back pain, 6 months pregnant, but she's going to be okay. 2 other people were airlifted out of this area in critical condition. Again, though, the LAPD motorcycle officer died at the scene. We have no ID on him out here yet. Officers were telling me that he was a longtime veteran of the department, that they were having trouble reaching his family because he apparently lived in the Antelope Valley, and the freeways being shut down this way and the phone lines out, they were having very difficult time trying to notify next of kin. Now, what's happening here right now, the freeways remain closed, and people who are coming to work tomorrow are probably thinking they're going to have to use Sierra Highway or the old road, which if they were using it today, a holiday, it was absolutely jammed. Highway 126 is closed, so you're not going to be able to take that through Fillmore and get down to the 101, so I really don't know what people in the Antelope Valley are going to be able to do. Angeles Crest is a mess. We see some Caltrans engineers. They're back now on the other side in their hard hats. There's some here. They've been assessing the damage here. They've also been on the still standing parts of the freeway, seeing how they're handling the aftershock, seeing if more of this freeway may not be able to handle the stress and if they're going to have to do some more demolition than they think. At this point, we've got about a quarter mile of this overpass, which is down. Up about a half mile, some of the I-5 has collapsed onto the old road near Cal Grove. Those areas are going to remain closed, but what they're wondering now is if these areas that are still standing are going to have to fall. And again, back in 1971, this same overpass had a collapse, and a man was killed driving a truck in that case. They rebuilt this up to new codes. It was supposed to be stronger, and it is stronger. You see more rebar, more of the tensioning cables in the freeway now than you did before. But as one Caltrans engineer told me this morning, it's always a crapshoot, and you can't build something to withstand anything.
All right, Jane, thank you for that. The thing is about this whole thing, for some of those people, it really is almost like being separated on another planet, because a main thoroughfare is gone.
Yeah.
And until those repairs are made, that's the way it'll be.
Rod Burnson is in the Skyfox helicopter where he's been for most of the day, and he is now over Sylmar, which was the site of a rather spectacular gas main fire and also a water main break earlier today. Rod?
Absolutely, Susan. This is on one end of Wolfskill Street is Sylmar. On the other end of the street is San Fernando. And in between, you had at least, I would say 5 blocks of fire. There is a petroleum pipeline under that street. Crews right now are cleaning up. They've spread sand over the area, and there's crews down in the hole, right about the center of your screen where that backhoe is, that yellow backhoe. And they've repaired the leaking pipe. They brought in some tanker trucks to suck out the excess fluid. Now, I don't know what kind of petroleum product it was, but both Tony Valdez and I came to this particular scene earlier this morning, and it was quite...
It looks awfully desolate out there, Rod. Am I correct in that there aren't many people out there?
Yeah, it is, Tony. This is a neighborhood of poor and middle class people, and it was really, really affected by what we saw. Now we've got the picture we have up is the gas fire and water main break on Balboa and Rinaldi. The picture in the tape that I did want to show you, Randy, why don't you come back to the live shot? The other picture that we wanted to show you was it was just after dark. There were flames leaping into the air, and the flaming petroleum product, whatever it was some sort of a light oil. Wasn't necessarily gasoline, and it certainly was something more than heavy crude, but it flowed down the street. It set cars on fire. There were several homes on that street that were burned to the ground. Some were badly damaged. And when you stood there and you watched these flames popping up, you had to ask yourself, are they going to ever be able to stop something like this? And clearly they were. Once they got the petroleum product shut down, then they went about repairing the break in the line, and now they're going through the cleanup process. A lot of people don't realize that throughout the entire city of Los Angeles, and it could be in your neighborhood, who knows, there are these high-pressure petroleum lines, and they're pumping everything from high-octane gasoline to natural gas to various petroleum products, something like a light.
In fact, we were here when 4 people were taken out, and one of the main reasons that they were able to find these bodies, they had basically sound equipment. They were able to go in there. They also went in there with dogs, and they were able to establish some type of communication with a lot of people that were trapped in the rubble. But as it is, one of the terminologies they like to use is the golden hour. They're basically saying that if they can't get them within the first hour, then things start looking grim right away. Considering the damage, things start looking grim awfully fast. But as it is, they're no longer using that sound equipment. They basically think they have just about everybody out that they, as far as survivals are concerned.
Do they use dogs at all also or not?
Yes, they did. As a matter of fact, there were about 2 German Shepherds, one on the south end of the apartment complex, the other one on the south end and on the north end. But the dogs didn't seem to be in there. They basically, I think, used the dogs as a mop-up procedure. They had sound equipment, and that was what they were basing their searches on, basically.
The man we see on the gurney, yeah, this is the guy who said it's good just to see the sky.
The sky at this point.
Absolutely.
We understand that complex is made up of students and a lot of seniors as well. Students from Cal State Northridge.
Right.
And
from what I
seniors.
understand, the senior citizens, most of the senior citizens occupy the bottom floors. But again, there's nothing to confirm that the majority of those who are dead were senior citizens. We understand that there was a little boy who was among those who were killed. One of our photographers came out here with his home video unit early this morning, and he was getting pictures, and suddenly he just said that it was just awful to hear that somebody went up to a woman and said, that's your little boy, and he's dead.
Yeah, we had heard reports as well that a 14-year-old boy was killed. Joe, that puts it all into perspective, the shot that you showed us there. These 2 buildings were the same buildings, the same height, early this morning before the earthquake. The one that you're looking at in the background there was a 3-story apartment complex. Maybe your photographer can pan back to the right for us and show you that perspective. These were identical buildings.
Look at that.
Yeah,
And it dropped one entire floor.
As you take a look more to the right, Colin, you can see that part of that structure there, part of the apartment complex there is kind of askew. It's kind of leaning to the right, listing. And I don't think they've allowed people who live there back in there at all. And it's quite frightening just to take one look at that and wonder what in the world those folks went through. And considering, looking at the damage, it was pitch dark. Keep that in mind. And some people, though they may say they have flashlights, well, getting to those flashlights is another thing.
Where did they all go, Joe? This is a 130-unit apartment complex out here.
Yeah, we got where there was about 100 people there.
Okay, I'm losing contact with you.
Do you have any idea where the survivors are right now? Do you hear me, Joe?
We may have lost audio.
Where are a lot of the people right now?
Right.
That's the question. No, let's basically take a look over here, too, Colleen and Chuck. Jeff, here's a lot of students, a lot of residents. I'm not sure within that crowd how many people are trying to get back into their homes. A lot of the people basically are horrified to see the damage. As you walk up if you take to the street to the left, the apartment complex directly across the street did not sustain that much damage, but then directly across the street at the Northridge Meadows, it just completely wiped out. A lot of these people walking around in a daze. There's a lot of within that crowd, a lot of heroes. Apparently, there was one guy that I spoke with earlier who said that as soon as it hit, he made a beeline getting out of it, getting out of the area. Then suddenly he and a bunch of other neighbors decided to establish some type of a flashlight brigade and basically work their way back into the rubble and climbing on their bellies and just shouting for people. And the minute they heard a voice, they went for it and extracted a lot of people. So somewhere in the crowd there, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who did that very same thing. And if you're asking me any questions, communications being what it is,
okay.
It's just pretty shot right now.
Let me just tell you that,
again, like I said earlier, this is the scene right here. This is like, if you will, ground zero. I'm going to duck to see if you can get a good picture of this.
This
is what you call
that
ground
Joe is
zero,
standing
Reseda
next to is
Boulevard.
our live
On
truck.
the 9600 block here, we have about a dozen fire units, the crush of the press corps, and a lot of residents and business people basically trying to go back to their businesses. Electricity is out, and things like, if you will, water and soft drinks, things like that to quench the thirst are at a premium. It's kind of interesting to see somebody at a store adding up the prices longhand. Computers are out. There's been a run on batteries, and there also is a premium. There's on phone usage. There's lines go like 6, 7 people deep. People trying to make phone calls to their relatives, letting them know they're okay. And then, of course, there's also the crush of press people trying to meet their deadlines and trying to phone in their stories, and with little or no luck.
Now,
I'll get back to you in the studio.
This is one of the areas that will lose water here shortly this evening. They don't have much, but what they have, they will lose.
And like we were saying earlier, if there was some mechanism so they wouldn't have to go out and buy all that bottled water. Let's give you an update now. Here's the latest. 24 people, or 26 now, as we've updated that again. 24 people now reported dead from the Northridge earthquake that hit at 4:31 this morning. The quake measuring 6.6 on the Richter scale. And there's already rocked more than a dozen aftershocks. In fact, a dozen, that's very minor, it's probably 60, approaching 70 aftershocks. The strongest of the aftershocks occurring here on the West Coast at 12:46 p.m. It was 5.0. Federal aid is on the way. We saw President Clinton signing emergency disaster, declaring this a disaster area, and already the mayor and the governor have done the same. At least half the deaths reported happened where we just had the report from Joe at the apartment complex where 14 people died. Gas leaks sparking many fires, train derailment as you see here. Gas company says the customers may be without service for up to a week. And then we got the news within the hour about the water, which is going to be shut off in this area, which compounds the problems.
We talk about the death toll here. So many of the people came from that apartment complex as well. We're getting word that one man was killed when he fell from a 6th-floor window in a downtown hotel today. Also, a young mother was killed when she got up to check on her kids. All right, our Conan Nolan is at Caltech. Let's go out to him for the very latest. Conan?
Colleen, we're about 60 seconds away from an update from Caltech. We're going to be hearing from Dr. Kerry See. He's a professor of geology here at Caltech, and also Dr. Kate Hutton, who, of course, you've been hearing all day today. She is a professor of seismology here at Caltech. There is some question as to the fault where this earthquake took place. We understand that there are now 3 possibilities. It could have taken place on the Santa Monica Mountains thrust fault, but that is almost that's almost parallel to the surface, and they don't believe it was that fault. It could be one that they had not charted before, one that makes its way up toward the surface at an angle, and it is that reason, they believe, the angular motion of the slippage.
Understand what I'm saying, but it's a different kind of damage. We're about 15 seconds away, and it would appear that Dr. Kate Hutton is going to lead off the briefing this afternoon. A lot of information that needs to be updated, and we're going to start with Dr. Kate Hutton of Caltech. Dr. Hutton, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we have an update for you on the earthquake this morning. Magnitude 6.6, we're still calling it, although there's some debate about whether it's 6.7 or not. We continued to have aftershocks all afternoon, mostly in the magnitude 2 and 3 range, but we have had a couple more magnitude 4s that people have felt. The main thing we'd like to date today is we have one of our geologists who's been in the field this morning, Dr. Kerry See, and he's going to talk about what he saw in the field. Kerry.